So I gotta suit up, 'cause you ain't gonna let up, let up. Ain't never gonna let up, never gonna fall.
Now here's your host, Kevin Ward.
Carter Hope was one of the best high school baseball players in the country, leading his Woodland team to a state title in Texas and being drafted in the third round of the MLB Draft. But becoming wealthy at 18 came with a price for Carter, and in just a short time, he was out of money and out of baseball. Drugs, alcohol, and gambling brought him down, but the Lord has lifted him up. He begins his story by talking about his childhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
You know, we had a pretty solid life here in Tulsa. I grew up with two older brothers. We just played ball, man. We played at All-Star Sports Complex, and if we weren't playing there, we're playing wiffle ball in the yard, and we had all sorts of friends and fun activities going on all the time. So we had a great childhood. I couldn't pinpoint any specific trauma other than, you know, and I don't know how much I want to share about my dad's struggles, you know, here, and we can work all that
and
out.
it's really, because this is really more about you.
Yeah.
And I think that if there's anything that you want to share without getting into the detail about your dad's struggles, about maybe how that may have affected your decision making.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then sure, but you don't have to go into the details.
Sure.
I think just saying struggles is plenty.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Yeah, and with that, I mean, I knew from an early age that I had a propensity towards substance abuse, towards alcoholism, drug abuse. In our family, there's, you know, lots of situations, lots of people who are struggling with similar experiences, you know. So, and all through my childhood, I knew that, you know, there was lots of conversations around like the drinking and gambling as well and stuff like that. So, you're too young to connect all the dots, but you knew that there were some things to look out for, and unfortunately I just had to experience that on my own to really see the pain that it could cause, and ultimately just the struggle that comes from those things.
Now where are you in the age with your brothers?
I've got two older brothers, and we go 33, 32, I'm 31.
Okay.
And then we've got a 20-year-old brother now.
Wow.
Who's playing at Austin Peay University,
okay,
just outside of Nashville right now.
Yeah.
So I'll actually go see him in Arkansas this weekend. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
so then, especially with the three of you, the older, because that's when you talk about playing ball and playing wiffle ball and all those kinds of things. And were you born here in Tulsa?
Yep, born in Tulsa.
And what high school did you go to?
Well, so I lived here and went to Union until 6th grade, and then I went to Jinx for 7th and 8th grade. And then when my parents split up, my stepdad was living in Houston at the time. And so that led us to move down to Houston, find a good academic and athletic program to join, and that was the Woodlands High School right outside of Houston.
Okay.
And so I didn't go to high school here. My oldest brother, Mason, he stayed with my dad, and he went to Broken Arrow High School and graduated from there with Archie Bradley, and they won state in 2011. Had a really good team.
Yeah.
So
now, obviously, baseball was a big part of your life growing up. Did you play other sports too? Did you play football, basketball, run track, any of that?
Yeah, I played football and basketball. I played football until my junior year of high school. Unfortunately for me, having a brother just a year older who was really talented at football, and what that looked like for the younger brother, myself, to go to practice every day and our coaches want to line us up against each other. It just didn't work out for me. So he went on to play football at West Virginia University.
Okay.
That was Garrett. He went to West Virginia to play football with Geno Smith and Tavon Austin and that whole crew there.
Yeah.
Played some fullback and linebacker. And then he actually joined their baseball team his junior year and got signed as a free agent with the Dodgers to come be a catcher. So he did a little bit of both. My oldest brother, Mason, was strictly baseball pretty much, although I think he could have played other sports as well. But, yeah, I just knew my future wasn't in football. And so that led me to just sell out on baseball after my junior year of high school.
When or did it start at the very beginning as far as church was concerned? I mean, were you a church-going family?
Yeah, we went on the holidays. We went on Easter and Christmas, and I'd say that I was raised partly Catholic, and I always had this idea that, I always believed in God. I always believed that He was at the beginning of my life and that He'd likely be at the end of my life. I didn't realize that this God wanted to be the source of our lives, like that He actually wanted to interact with us on a daily basis, that He wanted to lead us and guide us and give us strength and give us peace in difficult circumstances. And so I just, with that, like I didn't realize from an early age, from a young age, that I had a partner, I had a father, I had the advocate in the Holy Spirit to help me make decisions in my life, and so always believed in Him, didn't connect to Him as my source until a little bit later in life.
So you mentioned already about some of those things, the drinking and the gambling and drugs that kind of made their way into your life. When did all that start?
Yeah, for me, it was when we moved down to the Woodlands High School. It's an affluent area. It's really high academic achievement, really solid sports programs, and I start out there my freshman year of high school, and then I think my sophomore year of high school is when everything kind of started for me, and it started with marijuana because my identity was in baseball, and I'm having success on the field in a good program, and it seems like I'm going to get some traction and get recruited and such. And so I felt like I could, do this thing over here, start smoking weed with friends on the weekends when everybody's parents are out of town, and they all live in huge mansions, and like it doesn't seem like a huge problem, but you'll see how those little decisions that I began to make turned into big decisions, and there are no such things as small decisions in life, because they create momentum.
Was part of the problem, Carter, that your baseball wasn't being affected that much by all those things, and so if it had been, maybe you would have thought differently about those?
I agree with that for sure, because I was having success, and I could honestly, Kevin, unfortunately, I could smoke weed before a baseball game and go 2 for 3 with a couple doubles and probably get on the mound and strike some people out. It made it hard for me to realize that the decisions that I was making were going to impact my life because to me life was synonymous with baseball at that time in my life, because that was my identity.
Yeah. So how did the other things then start to leak in, and was it just kind of a matter of really running with the wrong crowd, or were the other guys that were kind of, I'm not going to say that they were the ones that got you into it necessarily, because you had free will to make those decisions, but was it kind of the wrong crowd, and that helped you start? Okay, first you smoke the weed, and then all of a sudden, well, the next thing would be alcohol, and the next thing would be gambling, that kind of thing. Did it trickle in over time?
It did, and that's referring back to what I said with the small decisions that we make lead
Yeah.
to more of those decisions, which escalate. And so what it looked like for me was that towards the end of 2013, I remember I'm on the bus on the way to the state championship game for the Woodlands High School, and my phone rings, and it's, the scouting director for the Kansas City Royals, and he says, Carter, we just picked you in the third round of the 2013 Player Year Draft, and we want you to be a Kansas City Royal, and I agree to that. That's one check mark off my list of what I thought my life was all about. And our team celebrates on the bus on the way to the state championship game that I pitch in, and I get MVP of that game, all in the same weekend there.
Wow.
And so I'm on a high, I don't even need the marijuana to be on a high, but,
Right.
I'm experiencing this success at a very young age, and in the decisions that I'm making that I know are wrong. I was raised with the difference in right and wrong, and then just having people around you that don't challenge you too, that don't call you out to a. It's so important that our friends, call us out when we're going the wrong direction, whether there's consequences or not, and so just getting mixed up with not knowing what success looked like, not having people around me to challenge me, to call me higher, and then getting started out in the world of professional baseball and a lot of self-autonomy, lots of freedom. Now I have resources to be able to provide for these addictions. And so the marijuana quickly turned into Oxycontin. And I was introduced to Oxycontin by, a teammate, and we started doing that. And then
that was still in high school?
That was when I started out with the Royals.
Oh, okay.
So, it was marijuana through high school.
So you didn't go to college to play ball. You went straight to the minor leagues.
That's right. Yes, sir. I was committed to Oklahoma State, ended up bypassing that and going straight to the Royals out of high school. And so now you're 18 years old with a $500,000 paycheck and freedom, and nobody can really tell you what to do because now you're a professional. And I just wasn't ready for it.
Yeah. So then go through that year and however many years that you played minor league baseball, and then when it kind of all crashed.
Yeah. So I was drafted towards the end of 2013, given a $500,000 signing bonus, and began my career with the Kansas City Royals. By the middle of 2015, I was broke, no longer a part of the Kansas City Royals organization, and addicted to heroin. And so just in those 2.5 years, that's how much it escalated, those little decisions that I was making over time, because guilt and shame start to set in, and you fail these drug tests for the Royals, and they're looking at their third round investment, their prospect, their guy, and you don't want to be that guy. You start to make decisions where, behavior modification comes into the picture. They send you to rehab, and you start to want to do better, But I realized pretty early on that on my own, in my own capability, in my own strength, I'm not enough to overcome those substances, those behaviors, those habits that I had created in my life. And so the guilt and the shame just compiled, and the marijuana turned into Oxycontin, the Oxycontin turned into heroin, and now I'm jobless. Now I have, not a single friend in my life that's holding me accountable. My family is on their last, they've done everything they can to help me, so what's going to change, But yeah, that's kind of the progress of how it all played out. I was still pitching. I was still, my second year, 2014, I think I had a pretty good year with the Royals in rookie ball, and so.
Where was that at?
That was in Burlington, North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, so you go from the Woodlands High School, great facilities, very nice accommodations and such, and then you start your professional career and you realize like you're kind of in the middle of nowhere, and the
Bus rides
the
and
bus
sandwiches
yeah.
and per diems.
yeah.
They're about $10 a day, I
The
guess.
minor league steaks,
Yeah.
the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was still kind of on the field getting after it, and but then eventually it just became too much, and the Royals were so gracious, so patient. They tried to put men in my life that I really respected, guys like Mike Sweeney and guys like Reggie Sanders and all these men, Blaine Boyer, that were speaking into my life. But the reality is that I just hadn't hit enough rock bottom to really want to change, and that would come later.
So when did Christ enter the picture?
Yeah, so towards the end of 2015 through January 1st of 2017, I was lost. Like I said, I was back in Tulsa now. My family had all moved back from the Woodlands to Tulsa, and so now I've got no vision. I've got nothing to put my hand to on a daily basis, and I'm addicted to heroin now, and you don't have the resources to provide for it. So my life was pretty dark from middle of 15 to 17, and in the middle of that darkness, I'll just give you a couple examples of things that were happening to paint the picture. I don't want to go too much into all of it, but just to kind of express how lost I was and where Christ met me was like, man, I fell asleep at the wheel on Highway 169 here, high on heroin one night, and like 75 miles an hour, veered off, hit a light pole, and like didn't hurt myself, didn't hurt my brother who was in the passenger seat. Like, wow. Things that should have taken me out, or like, the decisions that I was making started to like pile up, and the consequences were real. And then like arrested on a couple of occasions, and now you're at this point in your life where you come from a good family. You've got 3 brothers. 2 of your older brothers have also played professional sports. Like, your little brother's a Division I athlete. Like, it doesn't discriminate, Right. But here I am now. Towards the end of 2016, I'll kind of tell you like the enlightening moment or what that looked like, because it's pretty powerful the way that the Lord met me, and I'm so grateful. But towards the end of 2016, my mom and my stepdad were dragging me to church services, and I started to hear of the goodness and the grace of God, because I had so much guilt, and because I was on this mountaintop as an 18-year-old kid, and then I'm deeper than the valley at 21 years old, like I had wasted a lot of opportunities. And I knew that. I'm a smart enough guy to realize how far off the path I had gone, and that hurt. And my parents were dragging me to church services, and I started to hear how Jesus has provided a way to bridge the chasm between a perfect, holy God and a sinful man like me. Like, you just heard all of the poor decisions that I had made. And I started to believe that, his life, death, and resurrection could bridge that gap between me and a loving God that's unconditionally loving towards people like me who have gone astray, and he wanted to provide that for me. But also, you have this fleshly part of you that's still wanting to go back into that lifestyle and escape and avoid your problems. And the breaking point was New Year's Eve of 2016. I went over to a friend's house. His name's Braden Webb. He plays with the Brewers organization, and I grew up playing ball with him, and his family kind of knew that everything I was going through, and they just wanted to love on me that night. And I was really uncomfortable at like 3 a.m. in the morning, and I was like, man, can you just take me home? Like, take me back to my house. And he woke up, and he took me home, and because I wasn't sleeping much at that point in my life. But he runs me home, and I go into my mom and my stepdad's room at like 3 a.m. and I'm like, I wake him up and I'm like, something's got to change, man. I can't live like this anymore. Like I don't know what it's gonna be, but I need some help. I need to get out of this, and I didn't know what that was gonna look like, but you know, it's like 3 a.m. in the morning, so they're pretty much like, we'll figure it out tomorrow. Like, just go to bed, you know?
Yeah.
And I go up into my room and I just break down, you know, and now it's New Year's Day of 2017, and I break down. I'm just in a vulnerable position, and I'm open to any answers, and that's where Jesus met me, you know, and and I've been, you know, not just sober every day since then, but like living free, in the grace and the just the love of God, you know, and that realizing that he could meet someone like me where he met me, and then just recognizing how deep and how wide and how long and is his love for humanity. That's what transformed my heart. It was like, man, you could keep living like this and he's still going to keep running after you. But why would you? You know, his ways are so much better. And so I just surrendered my life to him that morning, and thanks be to God, you know, it's been about 9 years now and lots of transformation, and I'm just thankful for his willingness to meet me and be faithful to me when I was obviously running my own way.
How much time or do you live in that headspace now of what could have been? Because I'm assuming now at your age and the time that's gone on that there isn't another chance, right, to play professional baseball.
Yeah, that it's every time I share my story, I share it like this. I say there's a lot of things that I would not choose about the life that I've lived, and there's a lot of things that I would not change about the life that I've lived, because I wouldn't know him like I know him if he didn't meet me where he met me, you know, and you know, thankfully 7 months after I did meet Jesus, I wasn't necessarily trying to. It wasn't the goal. I just wanted to surrender my life to him and stay connected to him. 7 months later, in 2017, I was back in a Royals uniform and got to go play 2.5 more seasons for them. You know, ultimately, they drafted a bunch of really good baseball players that kind of, you know, they released me for a second time, you know, towards the end of spring training in 2019, but it wasn't for any other reasons than there's some really talented baseball players out there, and you can live with that, you know. And I got to redeem a lot of that story, and
awesome.
Until the new draft picks and the old draft picks were still there, and everyone was like, man, Carter used to be, you know, pretty lost, you know, and the new guys are like, what are you talking about? Like, he's a pretty decent guy, you know. So it was just a wonderful way to testify to the goodness of God, and I'm thankful that he opened that door back up to me to redeem a lot of those relationships, because there's some great guys over there in that organization for sure.
So what are you doing now?
So after I got released the second time from the Royals, I played a little bit of independent ball. Didn't play in COVID, but I also got to go play 3 winter ball seasons in Brisbane, Australia. So I've got a bunch of mates over there in Australia, and that was a wonderful experience. And I got back in February this year and realized, you know, I'm 31 now and want to get ahead of getting into the marketplace and find a job. So I started working for a staffing organization called Trinity Employment Specialists. And it's a great company. So just trying to figure out what the next steps are. But
do you want baseball to be a part of the next step?
I do private baseball lessons in the Tulsa area. I've got about 40 kids or so that I'm, you know, not only trying to help them develop their skills on the field, but obviously my goal is to separate your identity from your performance and share with you as a young man that you have innate value that's not associated with how talented you are at a game where you throw a ball over your head.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So going back to school at all, is that part of it?
Yeah, I
get a
did.
degree?
I
Okay.
did. Thankfully, the Royals, part of the contract coming out of high school is that they'll pay for you to go back and get your degree. So I
Okay.
went while I was playing indie ball, and over in Australia, I'm on the
Okay.
beach finishing up.
Nice.
I got my degree from Oklahoma State. So
Very good.
yeah.
And part of a church here in Tulsa?
Yep, I go to Cornerstone Church.
Okay.
It's an Anglican church. Great people, and thankfully, I've got a community of friends. I think is most important. People to really do life with outside of even just the four walls of church. But
Yeah.
Tulsa's got such special people. I think
Yeah.
that's what keeps us here, and it's just I'm just thankful that God's placed me within His body to be encouraged by so many amazing people in the Tulsa area.
And if somebody listening wants to get hold of you to maybe come and speak to a youth group or to a team, how do they get hold of you? Just Facebook or X or Instagram?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook right now. Not a whole lot of Instagram.
Okay.
You can call me, text me. My number's 918-884-9436, and that's my goal. That's the rest of my life. I feel like I'm a storyteller of the person of Jesus, His willingness to meet us where we're at, set us free, and not leave us the way that He found us.
My thanks to Carter Hope for sharing his story. We pray for a bright and enjoyable future. If you want to hear more stories like Carter's, just go to suitup611.com.
So I gotta suit up, 'cause you ain't gonna let up.